7 things you probably didn't know about Isaac Newton. Hello, and thank you for stopping by our channel, Weird World Facts Channel, the place where future millionaires come to get inspired. As you know that we at WWF are dedicated to providing you with insights into some of the greatest and finest things in life, from Weird World's facts to celebrities to historic icons. And one such historic icon that everybody in the world should know is the great scientist Sir Isaac Newton, who was born on 25 December 1643 in England. Although it would be fair to say that everybody in the world has heard the name of Isaac Newton, but behind the highly successful life of a scientist, there was a mysterious man. So join us as we explore the life and work of one of the greatest minds in history. You won't believe what we've uncovered. Let's begin. One, Newton's Law of Love. Why romance wasn't in the equation. Sir Isaac Newton, the legendary scientist who discovered the laws of motion and universal gravitation, is known to have devoted his entire life to science. But did you know that this dedication extended to his personal life as well? That's right, Newton never got married and never even dated anyone. While some might find this a little surprising, it actually makes perfect sense. Newton was completely consumed by his passion for science and the pursuit of knowledge, leaving little time or inclination for romance or marriage. In fact, he once famously remarked, "I have better things to do than to attend to such nonsense." Two, the apple that changed science. Isaac Newton, the brilliant mind behind some of the most groundbreaking scientific theories of all time, was once sitting in his mother's garden, lost in thought. Suddenly, he noticed something odd. An apple, which had been hanging from a nearby tree, had fallen to the ground. This was not an uncommon occurrence, but for some reason, it caught Newton's eye. As he watched the apple fall, he began to wonder, what was it that caused it to fall to the ground, rather than float away into the sky? This question sparked a fascination within him, and he began to investigate the phenomenon in greater detail. What he discovered was nothing short of revolutionary. Newton realized that the same force that had caused the apple to fall to the ground was also responsible for holding the moon in orbit around the Earth. This was the moment when he formulated his famous theory of universal gravitation, which would go on to change the world of science forever. Three, Isaac Newton despised his stepfather. Isaac Newton had a childhood filled with abandonment and loneliness. His mother, Hannah Ayscough, left him in the care of his grandmother when he was just 3 years old. Newton's father, a wealthy farmer, had already passed away before his birth, leaving him with no parental figure. As he grew up, Newton began to feel increasingly neglected by his mother, who remarried and had 3 children with her new husband. Newton was sent to boarding school and was only allowed to visit his mother occasionally, which made him feel even more isolated and alone. In one of his journals, Newton wrote about his desire for revenge against his mother and stepfather, expressing his anger and hatred towards them. He even went as far as threatening to burn down their house with them inside. 4. Form to fame. Isaac Newton, the man who revolutionized science, was almost lost to history because of his mother's wishes. At just 16 years old, Isaac was forced to leave school and return to his family's farm by his widowed mother. It seemed like his promising academic career was over before it even began. But thanks to some persuasive words from his headmaster, Isaac was able to convince his mother to let him continue his studies. And boy, are we glad he did. This setback turned out to be a mere bump in the road for Isaac, who went on to study at one of the most prestigious universities in the world. It just goes to show that even when the odds are against you, with a little bit of determination, you can still achieve greatness. 5. Why Isaac Newton wrote a diary of sins. Isaac Newton had a hidden side that was rarely known to others. Newton was an introverted and secretive person who preferred to keep his emotions to himself. To deal with the frustrations and anxieties that plagued him, Newton came up with a unique coping mechanism. He recorded his daily transgressions in a notebook. This was no ordinary diary, mind you. It contained a list of 57 sins that he had committed. From wasting time to being irritable, Newton didn't shy away from admitting his flaws. Now you may be wondering why a genius like Newton would bother with such trivialities. Well, the answer lies in his psychology. As a solitary person, Newton often found it difficult to express his feelings to others. He felt that by writing down his sins, he was purging his negative emotions and gaining some much-needed clarity. But here's the catch. Newton wasn't just some brooding intellectual. He was a moody teenager at heart, just like many of us. His notebook revealed his fears, insecurities, and struggles that most people can relate to. It showed us that behind the facade of a scientific genius was a human being with all his flaws and imperfections. So the next time you're feeling down, take a page out of Newton's book and write down your own list of sins. You might be surprised at how liberating it can be. 6. Isaac Newton did not take criticism well. Isaac Newton, undoubtedly one of the greatest scientists in history, had a personality that was far from perfect. In fact, he was known to be quick-tempered and prone to emotional breakdowns. But why was this the case? Well, as we discussed, Newton's childhood was a lonely one. His father died, his mother remarried, and left him. As a result, he grew up as a solitary and introspective child, with no one to turn to for emotional support. Despite his brilliance, Newton was often misunderstood and criticized by his peers. He had a habit of keeping his discoveries to himself and refusing to collaborate with fellow scientists. This was partly due to his fear of being criticized or ridiculed, but also because he felt that his ideas were too important to be shared with others. As a result, Newton's emotional struggles often got the best of him. He would become easily frustrated and lash out at those who disagreed with him. He even suffered a nervous breakdown at one point, which left him unable to work for several months. 7. He wrote more on alchemy and religion than on science. Newton was a man of many interests, including alchemy and religion. He spent a great deal of time studying these subjects and even wrote over 10 million words on them. However, despite his fascination with these topics, Newton kept his writings on alchemy and religion private during his lifetime. It wasn't until the 1960s that these papers were finally made public. These facts may sound strange and unbelievable, but they are all true and verified by various sources. So this is all for today, 7 different facts about Isaac Newton. Do let us know which one of them you find interesting in the comments section. And for all of you who stayed with us until the very end, here is a bonus fact for you. The most valuable tooth. Back in 1816, almost 200 years after Newton's death, an unusual item went up for auction, one of his teeth. Yes, you heard that right. The tooth had been passed down through several generations of Newton's family before finally ending up in the hands of a collector. Despite its strange nature, the tooth quickly gained attention from bidders who were intrigued by the idea of owning a piece of one of history's greatest minds. In the end, the tooth sold for a whopping $3,600, an incredible sum of money at the time. We hope you enjoyed the video. If you have learned something new today, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Weird World Facts. Give it thumbs up and ring the notification bell button for our latest video updates.